Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my sketching routine. For the year 2017, I have spent the entire year really on this long-winded journey of improving myself as an artist. Something that I've grown extremely fond of over the year on this journey is actually in regards to sketchbooks. Previously, in the past couple years, I just never really drew in sketchbooks. I didn't experiment in sketchbooks. I never really gave sketchbooks a chance. I just kind of always went to the final product. And with 2017, honestly, I have to say sketchbooks have become my best friend. So join me in this video where I will discuss the materials that I use, the sketchbooks that I use, and also my drawing process. I come from a background of design. I went to design school for 3 years and I basically studied everything to do with communication design, with marketing, with branding, and typography, basically everything, regarding design, I studied it. And traditionally, I always saw the sketchbook as a tool in which I could basically do a brainstorming concept in my sketchbook. I do something really quick. I talk about the concept, or I draw the concept more or less of what I want to design on the computer. I never really ended up doing a finished product in my sketchbook. It was more so of just quickly sketching some storyboards, for example, and maybe some topography, but that was basically to the extent of what I would do in a sketchbook. Now, when I started my art journey approximately 3 years ago, I always went straight to the finished product. I never first used my sketchbook for sketching purposes in terms of practicing how to do bodies, how to do like human forms or animals or landscapes. I would often just, take out my Arches paper and draw directly on my really expensive Arches paper and do the final product from there. I wouldn't really do concept sketches. I wouldn't practice drawing in general. And this is something I had to learn over the years, and I really have to say for 2017, I really took this, head on and challenged myself to fill in as many sketchbooks as possible. So as 2017 started, I went ahead and I bought a couple sketchbooks, not really knowing what I was getting myself into. I initially started drawing with graphite pencils, and I bought myself a whole set of Faber Castell 9000, and these are excellent pencils. I could definitely recommend them for just casual sketching. And I got really into it. I started sketching, I started practicing human anatomy, landscapes as well, background work, and I was just really having a lot of fun, but I was only sticking to graphite pencils because that's what I thought you did in a sketchbook. But as the months went by and I started experimenting with more, different materials, more techniques, I realized that, why can't I just use my sketchbook for practicing watercolor techniques, for practicing gouache techniques, for adding textures, for trying out different color schemes, and, just trying and experimenting and kind of opening up myself to something new. And that's when everything changed for me completely. And I cannot stress enough how this has improved my way of doing art. So with the realization that I can use my sketchbook as an open book for trying new things, for trying new techniques, different colors, different materials together, this is where I kind of feel like I really flourished, and I really took a proactive sort of, stance in terms of what I wanted to be as an artist. I started not only using just graphite pencil, but I started experimenting with Copic markers. I started adding watercolor as of late. I think this started approximately end of August, maybe September. I started playing around with watercolors, and lately I've also been adding gouache paints, and I've been adding glitter paints. I've been adding acrylic sometimes, and just really trying to find a way to play around with these different things to create a work of art, to improve some of my sketches. So I kind of fluctuate between just a regular sketch, which I often don't even show in my, social media profiles. This is just something for me in my sketchbook to improve. But I also started playing along with actually creating final pieces and seeing these final pieces as a way to challenge myself at the techniques as well as how to use color together. So I'm just going to list off some of my most commonly used materials that I do play around with in my sketchbooks. We're of course going to start off with the Faber Castell 9000. You can get a set of these, and these are highly recommended for casual sketching, for playing with the shades and the shadows, and if you're going at, you know, something for realism, this is definitely the pencils that are recommended for that. I also use my Staedtler mechanical pencil, the 0.5 millimeter. This is what you're seeing in this speed drawing video actually. This is my #1 pencil that I use for sketching because it's so great. You don't have to sharpen your pencil. It's really nice for just casually sketching in your sketchbook. Other types of materials that I do play around a lot with is of course my Schmincke Watercolor. I also use my White Nights Russian watercolors. Then I go ahead with my Faber-Castell Polychromos. I use my Caran Luminance pencils. And also as of late, I've been playing around with the Schmincke Gouache collections. So these are my sort of staple or commonly used items that I do use for my sketchbook. In terms of unique items, I will also play around with some of my, you know, my Aqua bronze glittery paints, as well as my embellishment mousse from Tonic Studios. So these are the different types of textures that I will apply on my final pieces later on. So this is a super long list for myself, and this is just what, you know, my personal preference and what I use in terms of final paintings as well. So it's really up to you what you guys want to play with. It's your sketchbook. It's totally, you know, your art journey. You guys can use anything you want. You guys can just use one thing that you're comfortable with. But just note and just realize that your sketchbook is yours and it's your kind of open book to play around and to experiment different stuff. Now, in terms of what sketchbook to use, there are so many options out there for you. I would recommend going to your local art store, checking out the sketchbook area. My local art store, there's like literally thousands of sketchbook brands that you can select. And of course, there are different options depending on what you want to achieve. There will be some just plain paper, you know, recycled paper sketchbooks, which are typically on the cheaper end. These are just good for casually sketching. I do have a lot of these and I just use them for graphite sketching. You can also buy things like watercolor sketchbooks. Like I've also seen oil painting sketchbooks, which I haven't tried, but the watercolor sketchbooks can be interesting for you, especially if you want to play around with watercolor a lot. You can get some watercolor sketchbooks that are hot pressed or cold pressed, which basically there's just a difference in the texture of the paper. I actually don't use watercolor sketchbooks as often. I prefer using just paper sketchbooks that have a thicker cardstock. So when I do use, you know, water or ink or, you know, marker work, it's not going to appear on the other side of the paper. So I do like to have a super thick paper for my sketchbooks. And that's just my personal preference, but you guys can find anything you want out there. There's so many options at your art stores. To basically summarize this video, I just wanted to say that art is a journey and your sketchbook is your best friend in improving and trying new things. So definitely see your sketchbook as an open book where you can just try different things, try collages, try different techniques, different materials. Don't be afraid to just try, because a sketchbook is basically the first step before creating a final work of art. So thanks so much for watching this video. I do appreciate it. Please do give it a big thumbs up if you did like it. And don't forget to subscribe to my social media accounts. I do post on a regular basis on Instagram and Facebook. And you can also find all of the links to the materials that I do use for my sketching down below in the video description. So as always, I wish you guys a lovely end of your weekend, and I hope it's sunny in your part of the world, because it most definitely is not here in Berlin, and it's kind of cold and depressing. But yeah, you know, drawing makes everything, you know, better. So have fun, guys, and stay awesome and keep drawing, and we will see each other very soon. Bye!